little bit of a busy Saturday for me. Normally trying to take the day off on Saturday, but we had Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Larry Klayman just a little while ago. I'm heading somewhere now, so I was just walking by this place. I don't know if people can see that. Masks required to enter despite being outside. But this is, I was pleased to see this flea market thing is open. We see now people wearing masks and shields. And even though we're outside, you got to have a mask at this place to get in there and, purchase fleas or whatever. They're selling artwork and stuff. And this is popular. This is like an antique kind of thing. I got to tell you something. I haven't actually ever, normally this whole neighborhood is filled up with stuff like this. This is the first time I've seen this open since the pandemic started. Not to say I've been looking, but it's definitely, there are times that it's been closed. And there's a couple things around here that do this flea market kind of deal. Oh, look, this I've never seen before. Hand washing station, porta potty, hand washing station, and portable toilets. Definitely stinks. It was John Cullen actually last night who was talking about the, what was it? The orofecal transmission of COVID. So that means if you walk by that porta potty and if you can smell what you normally smell coming out of those things, that is due to microparticles of, do I need to spell it out? That's touching your brain. So microparticles of that are getting to you. We've spoken to people about, hey, they yell at me to wear a mask. You ask them, do they ever flatulate, and can people smell that through underwear and pants? I wonder how effective these cloth masks are. Somebody out there can measure the size of a fart particle and compare it to the coronavirus particle, and we get some scientific data on that. But the reason why I wanted to do, this live stream is because we are about to experience more lockdowns. What's going on here? That guy looks like he's got a New York Press license plate on his vehicle, and they got the lights set up like they're going to do a stand-up for somebody on the news. Something happening over here? You expecting anything interesting to happen? Sorry?
I'm not wearing a mask.
You're not wearing a mask? I'm not wearing a mask? Oh, so you're afraid of me? That guy's a jerk. Oh, you're not wearing a mask. Go away. The city has gone insane. That's not the reason why he doesn't want to talk to me. He's part of the mainstream press. He's one of these guys who's a cameraman. I got to tell you guys something. I know a lot of jerks like that. Dyed-in-the-wool, union member, camera operators, whatever the hell that guy is that he thinks he's a genius. Screw that guy. You're not wearing a mask. You know what? If they make a law that you have to wear a mask outside, I'm going to fight that in the courts. And this is why I wanted to make this video today. Because the dope in chief, as far as New York is concerned, Mayor de Blasio and his dopey buddy, Andrew Cuomo over there, they've instituted these new lockdowns. I went to Brooklyn the other day. If people saw that video on the bike, man, that was a hell of a bike ride. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that long of a bike ride again. That was, I guess you'd call that ill-conceived. But what I'm showing in the graphic for this walkabout video, this is data from today, from this morning, from like an hour ago, from the New York City Department of Health. This is their recording of the daily death count. We're talking about cases. We're talking about how many people test positive. If anybody has seen Spiro's really excellent video that includes segments with Dr. Carrie Mullins, the inventor of the PCR test, who goes into some detail about how that thing is not able to diagnose a disease or detect a virus. It's deep scientific stuff. So people who know more about that kind of thing than I do, are pretty likely to get more out of Spiro's video. But I still felt, even for the layperson, Carrie Mullins, whatever that doctor's name is, who won the Nobel Prize for science or chemistry for inventing that PCR test, he talks about, in a general sense, how it works and how it can be manipulated to achieve a positive result. This is probably not going to be totally scientifically accurate, but what he talks about is the amplification of a sample, the doubling of a sample to detect whatever it is that they're looking for. And he says that you can essentially do this process enough times where any sample can yield a result. He talks about how, there's all kinds of different things that you can search for and scan for within the body, and that the test can be misused to give a false positive. We also spoke to those two Hasidic gentlemen in Borough Park, Brooklyn the other night, who, I don't know if they were right or wrong, this hasn't been corroborated, but just from the standpoint of introducing a logical evaluation of what's going on, I thought they did have some merit. What they said was, de Blasio made a statement days ago that if the infection rate goes over 3%, that he'd lock down specific neighborhoods. Now, to the average person listening to the news or whatever kind of stupid press conference that lanky dope is putting out, sounds reasonable. He's thought about it. He's got some numbers there, statistics, math, percentages, whatever he's doing. Sounds good. Sounds like he thought about it. But when you take a step back, I even wrote it in the description. I forget who, maybe Mark Twain, lies, damn lies, and statistics. So perhaps they've come up with that little calculation to make it appear that they're doing something well thought through and sensible. But what they've actually done is they've given themselves a great opportunity through the news, through these press conferences, through edicts. I mean, just look around. Almost every single person now is wearing a mask around New York City outside. Before I went on that bicycle trip to Brooklyn, I went to the local bike shop. What's it called? I don't remember the name, but I want to let people know because I'm not doing business with them anymore. Their store has been closed to anybody walking in since the very beginning of the virus. They'll walk inside there and get something for you as you line up outside. But now, even outside, even standing 6 feet away, they just won't deal with you if you're not wearing a mask. So I won't deal with them. Bicycle Habitat, that's the name of it, on 7th Avenue. Never buying anything there, anything again. Tire pressure gauge, anything like that. Just a couple things I was going to pick up. But anyway, point of the matter is, de Blasio says if it goes above 3%, we're going to lock down. So now, given that the inventor of the PCR test tells us that the test can be manipulated, or an accident or mistake can occur with it if the samples are duplicated too many times. That guy's got an MD plate and he's encroaching on me as I cross the street. Maybe he's trying to drum up business by running me over. Was he an orthopedist? The guy who invented the PCR test says they can keep doubling the samples, keep doubling the whatever, amplifying the thing to get a positive result. So if there's a neighborhood that you want to lock down, you could get a bunch of people, test them, and make sure they have a 3% infection rate. Mike Moore has done stories in TruePundit.com about how liquor licenses have been taken away from bars that were openly critical of Governor Andrew Cuomo's policies. Well, so we've got evidence that they are targeting specific businesses. Why would we doubt that they would use additional methods to do essentially the same thing? I mean, again, their own New York City Department of Health data, look at that chart. It's been flat since June. That is the daily death rate, the number of people dying from coronavirus. So if that's flat, doesn't it change the kind of picture of even if we have 3% of people getting infected, but the death rate stays flat or goes down? That speaks to exactly what John Cullen has been talking about, the depletion of susceptibles less people who are susceptible to getting the illness are around. Look, we just had a 74-year-old president, so he's in a high-risk category based on age. He's overweight, his own doctor said. Too many taco bowls, I guess. I don't mean to disparage the president. There's a lot of pressure. He should lose weight, though. We need him to stay healthy. But that puts him in a higher risk. Chris Christie, the former governor of New Jersey, the dude is obese, okay? And don't give me any nonsense about body shaming. If you're that heavy for your own good, you've got to lose weight. If you're smoking 20 packs of cigarettes a day, you got to stop. I don't like all these people who don't want to take any responsibility for themselves and then want the government or the taxpayers to, give everybody health care. I just don't agree with that. You got to take some responsibility for yourself. Some people just don't want to do that. But Chris Christie, obese, what does he weigh? 300 pounds? Came out of the hospital. He didn't die from coronavirus. So do they have better treatments? I mean, that's what the president told us. Maybe that's correct. But the point is, it's never been more in our face than right now. We have the death numbers from today, and it's not an alarming number of people dying from this. It's a pretty, look, I'm not saying, oh, that's okay, people are dying. I'm just saying people die in a giant city and a state with 19 million people in it. And if we're talking about 8 people, 16 people, you just can't lock down the whole entire state, city, destroy the economy. Every day I go out and walk around. There's more businesses closing. And now, these guys just want to keep that trend going, make it worse. It's so obvious to me that this is, it's all happening before the election. It's almost as if they just want to make sure everybody is, look, that guy doesn't want to talk to me out on the street. They're going to go crazy at the polling station if people try to go in there. And I'm not suggesting that anybody walk around without a mask on. Let's see what the chat is saying. But it seems to me that they're doing something here. This is what Dark Hostess says, well, this is what happens to decadent societies. They commit suicide. That's interesting. COVID is a hoax is somebody's name on here. I hate that name because when I read your comment, it causes me to say that. I do not believe it's a hoax. I think that is a gross simplification of what's going on. I'm just walking by here and I'm reminded somebody wanted me to check out the UN. But that's not the UN, is it? On 33rd? No, it's like on 40 something. What building are we looking at over there? That's a little bit out of the way. I don't think I'm going to go over to the UN. Also, it's Saturday, so it's not a good day to check. The flags might be down. It seems every day I go by the UN, they have a different reason why the flags are down. We can see, I don't know, can people see that? That street is closed off to traffic. Could be due to, restaurant stuff like this. This restaurant looks like they made a go of being an outdoor thing and it didn't work out. It's a bit early for restaurant stuff right now, but I don't know. It's kind of lunchtime, right? No, it's 1:43. There should be people out in these things having lunch. So the mayor and the governor are not satisfied with the current level of destruction. They need to push it over the top. They just need to absolutely destroy what remains of New York. I mean, there's literally days left. It happens to be pretty warm right now. It's about 65 or something like that. Fahrenheit for our friends around the world. So what is that Celsius? Maybe 15? I don't know. It's warm, not hot. Yeah, I'm not gonna go down there. I'm gonna keep going where I'm going. But very disturbing. See, why is this not a biohazard? Somebody's been breathing through that. Everybody's afraid of what's coming out of everybody else's mouth. So you can just throw your mask down on the street like people toss out cigarettes on the street. Same kind of jerks who tell you where's your mask are polluting the air, polluting the water. Where do those tossed out cigarettes go? I've never understood why that's allowed to just throw down a cigarette. Huh. See, I've been seeing a few of these. This is some kind of crazy Kia with air hood holes there. GTS. Stinger, all-wheel drive. Can't say I know much about that. So they're talking about the infection rate. It's just naked. They're not talking about the death rate. It would seem to me a sensible approach to this would evaluate the number of people getting infected versus the number of people tested versus the number of deaths in the same kind of, population group or community or whatever that is, and make some conclusions based on that. New York City buses drive like maniacs. You got to be real careful with the buses. I hate the bus. All the downside of driving in your own car, you got traffic and uncertain arrival time and public transit. It's the worst of both worlds combined. And I haven't been on the subway in a while either, because it's just, with no confidence in the police, no confidence that they'll actually do anything, it is pretty dangerous. I no longer feel the sense of imminent danger just walking around that I did at one point, but I will keep an eye on this rear view mirror. People are going to remember last week. I don't know why I don't feel the sense of imminent danger. Maybe I'm just a boiling frog getting used to it, but less than a week ago, somebody tried to sneak up behind me and attack me. So, I want to interact with the comments a little bit, because really all I wanted to bring to people's attention was the fact that de Blasio and Cuomo want to continue these lockdowns and shutdowns. They're basing it on what is obviously manipulated data, not me questioning public policy, me looking at their own data that's inconsistent within the context of what they're telling us. So Ruth says, hi, why aren't you riding your new bike? Because I went to buy a lock for it at that stupid bicycle habitat, and they would not talk to me outside the place, even 6 feet away from the guy, unless I had a mask on. And contrary to what uninformed people think, it is not the law that you have to wear a mask outside. It's a guideline. It's a social distancing guideline. And if you're not able to maintain 6 feet of social distance, then you are required. They stop short of saying required by law. And it's not the cops that are going to do this. It's the New York Health and Hospitals track and trace corps that is supposed to first offer you a mask. They're supposed to tell you that you have to wear it. Then they have to offer it to you. Then if you refuse, they have to tell you that you're going to be ticketed. Then if you don't wear it, then you get a ticket for $1,000. That's a lot. Oh, but here's somebody who's got the mask on around her neck and smoking and pissed off. I mean, listen, that woman is susceptible to the disease. She looked overweight to me. She was smoking, so she's going to have compromised respiratory health. But she's got the mask around her neck. Why isn't there some corps to yell at her and tell her to stop smoking and lose weight? I mean, I think people should do whatever they want. If you want to smoke and drink booze and do whatever, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. I mean, arguably smoking does, but I'm not into this where everybody is concerned about what's coming out of other people's mouths and taking your temperature everywhere you go. So I went to a restaurant to eat in a restaurant for the first time just the other night, and they took my temperature, which I objected to, but I don't know, for some reason I don't get as upset about that as other people. Probably I should, because that could be the precursor. They could say, oh, you're 99.1, we need to, poke brain fluid out of your nose or whatever. And then, start tracking and tracing. But they wanted my phone number and my email address to basically open the door to them calling at any time and saying, oh yeah, Joe Schmagegi was in the restaurant the night that you were and he has COVID, so now you're on the track and trace thing. This Marxist core of New York Health and Hospital maniacs are coming over to your house to do the Alan Dershowitz treatment and forcibly inject you with whatever the hell they're talking about. I mean, I hope this stuff doesn't get the channel dinged. They have these broad policies now where they're going to say, oh, you're questioning public health policy. So what the hell is up with that? I thought we're supposed to have checks and balances. If somebody's a doctor and they produce a video that's questioning public health policy, that is kind of like peer review, right? That's another scientist evaluating information provided by scientists. Perhaps that'll help us find a better answer. The fact that they don't want you to do that should tell people something. I hope people will join on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. As Joe Arpaio said this morning, none of these news stations want to have him on. It seems when you find the right person with the right piece of information, they're just super blocked. Dr. Mikovits, she's a PhD. She's worked with Fauci. She's worked on all this stuff. She's an expert in microbiology, and she gives information, and they just delete her. I never heard of this place before. Raid Burger. Pretty busy. Some restaurants seem to be doing really well. That's a cool idea. Just put a TV out in the street. Wow, where is it plugged in? Huh. It's amazing. Huh. Hey, wait a minute. That reminds me of the chaos theory thing that Bishop and I were talking about the other day. There's a real through line with all the Crowdsource the Truth guests. If people aren't watching all the shows, you're missing some important stuff. And really do need your support on Patreon and Subscribestar. Look, I'm not a fool. I know they can shut those things down too. And I'm doing everything I can to try to build the resiliency against that. We've recently been given a channel on banned.video, which is Alex Jones' InfoWars video server. Thanks again to InfoWars and to Alex for doing that. I'm loading as many videos on there as I can. That's a manual process. So I've got a bunch of the Bishop's videos on there. He's been very popular with the InfoWars audience, so I thought that would be a good first step. I also put the Dr. Mikovits video on there, so if you haven't had a chance to see that, that's been removed from Crowdsource the Truth's YouTube channel. And it's weird because they said, oh, it's not a strike, we're just taking it down. So, I mean, it minimizes the hemming and hawing and the hue and cry from somebody like me in that, the channel's not deactivated. So I'm kind of just like moving on and figuring out other ways to allow people to see that video. You can see it on BitChute. You can see it on banned.video. I had it on Patreon and Subscribestar, which, the sponsor exclusive videos on those channels are supplied by Vimeo, but then Vimeo started canceling videos. So it's crazy. I mean, is that an accident? A coincidence? A conspiracy theory? I don't know. But Barry Diller, who is the co-founder of Fox, which is definitely a corporate media entity, who is now the chairman and CEO of Interactive Corp, which owns Vimeo, which has owned Newsweek and Daily Beast. The guy's a media mogul. And he's involved in a lot of stuff that really deserves some media scrutiny, but I don't know if it's getting it. And here's another thing that doesn't get enough attention. The Chrysler Building. This is one of the coolest buildings in New York. You cannot go up in it, like not into the top, that is. Years and years ago, I visited an office up in there, and it's just all offices. You have to have some official business to get in there. When that was built, it was sort of like in competition with the Empire State Building that you can't really see from right here. But I forget what this is. Charles told us the last time we saw it. This is brand new. Maybe that's the Helmsley Building? I don't know. But that was just built like amazingly quickly. And then over there, that is, I think, Salesforce. Or no, that's Bank of America in the background. That was Oscorp in the Spider-Man movie. That building doubled for Oscorp, and then back in LA, they built the top of it on a set, and I think that got cut, maybe. I don't know, that movie was terrible, but there was a whole scene where Spider-Man was sliding down that building. Sometimes it's It's hard to keep your train of thought when you're talking to yourself here. Let's see what people have to say in the comments. Yeah, if you missed the show with Joe Arpaio, Marsha Jones, you're right, I'm not wearing a mask. So what's the problem? You don't like that? You're looking through a computer screen. You're not going to get sick. There's nobody around me. I'm more than 6 feet away from anybody. That guy's not wearing a mask because he's smoking a cigarette. So I just don't like this whole, I have to do something because some small percentage chance that something might happen to somebody else. I mean, that just defies basically every single thing that each of us do. You know, what is the statistical likelihood that any one of these people driving their cars or this bus, which just almost did crash into me despite the fact that I have the light, what's the statistical likelihood that something they're doing could harm my health? Like that bus could crash into me. I bet you it's higher than the likelihood of getting coronavirus, and therefore every single one of these people should get out of their cars. Cars should be made totally illegal. Nobody should be allowed to drive. And that's it. End. You know, that person had a dog that just walked by. What if the dog bit me? What if I got rabies? You know, there's like an infinitesimally small chance that anything that anybody is doing here could have a negative impact on somebody else. So therefore they should stay home, lock down, cover their face, stay inside. Here, more stuff for lease. Closed. This is ground floor retail at the Chrysler building. I mean, this is premium. Here's the entrance, by the way. I just love the Art Deco style of the Chrysler building. It's super cool. When I was a kid, I got this series of books that were cut out pages. It was like, you know, hard, thick pages that you cut out and glued together to build various monuments. I built the Chrysler building, I built the Empire State Building, the Brooklyn Bridge. That was cool. You had to do all the rigging with thread. And so from a young age, I sort of started to admire these different buildings. And I mean, New York is basically destroyed. I was talking to a friend of mine who's not into politics or whatever, but he's just like so upset. And he's trying to negotiate a lower rent with his apartment because he lost his job. And a lot of people are in this same condition, and the apartment is run by some company in another state or whatever, and he said that they don't really get what's going on, and a lot of people are having a lot of different kind of problems. How am I doing on time? I think I'm all right. Let's take some more comments here. Little dog. Dog's not wearing a mask. Can canines transmit coronavirus? I think somebody said they could. Look, I mean, if the smell of feces can transmit it, that's pretty bad. Rose heard NYPD are retiring early because they know they'll be laid off eventually. Well, I mean, I think we've been hearing that all around the country, that cops are resigning. You know, maybe it's because they're fearing being laid off. Maybe it's because they're fearing if they actually do their job, they're more likely to be prosecuted than for the suspect to be incarcerated. And so therefore, why would you do that? Put yourself at risk. You know, everybody wants to defund the police, eliminate qualified immunity, make it impossible for police to do their job so that criminals can run rampant and continue to destroy the place. Well, who the hell would want that? Other than people who just want abject destruction. Sandwich place is out of business. I never really ate there, but I always notice it because they have this comic book shop up there. Comic book shops are curious things to me. I always wonder how they could stay in business in New York City. I mean, I get it, people collect comic books, but it just seems like with the rent being so high, I mean, that's a totally unnecessary discretionary item, but good on them for staying in business. You know, this is the emergency disaster. How many people's mental health, physical health, what about when your business goes out and you can no longer afford your health insurance or you can't afford medicine that you might need to buy? Look at this. It's just place after place. Stupid mayor. Some kind of cop car. I love this kind of ad. Probably the healthiest cafe in New York. You don't really need to worry about verifying that because they're just not too committed to it. It's probably the best. There could be others that are better. I've noticed that a lot of streets are getting repaved. Maybe that's normal for this time of year or what, but I don't know. So there's a bunch of people not wearing masks. I don't care. Some dope in the comments the other day on the bike ride video said that I complain about people riding bikes on the sidewalk and then I was riding the bike on the sidewalk. Except I wasn't riding the bike on the sidewalk. And by the way, if someone's riding the bike on a sidewalk at night when nobody is on the sidewalk, I'm not there to complain. And I frankly don't mind that much about that. The problem I have is people who ride by like inches away from me and almost crash into me on the bike. This might be an Uber because the guy's got a mask on in his own car. Why is he not driving? Everybody in the car has masks on. We're beyond Twilight Zone. Way beyond. I'm actually all right with these masked up people not wanting to talk to me because it's kind of an immediate indicator that I don't want to talk to them either. I mean, the place looks like a total wreck. Everything for rent. Closed. New gym. I don't know. Is it? Coming fall 2020? But no one's going to even be able to go there unless you put on a mask. Who wants to go to the gym with a mask on? Seems like a suffocation plan. I mean, this is still what I would consider a pretty nice Saturday. It's not snowing, it's not freezing, it's not raining. I would normally expect to see people around today. What's that guy doing on the laptop over there? I guess he's getting free Wi-Fi. Is this a hotel? Looks pretty closed. Waldorf Astoria, a lot of wood going over there. Are people staying at the Waldorf Astoria right now? Did Trump own that at one point? Do people know? Oh. See, am I still live? Big 21 is asking me, have I heard of any more bombs in the city? No, I haven't heard of any bombs since the 23rd Street bomb. Top Cat 3333 says no Charles question mark. Charles is on Sunday and Wednesday, and tomorrow we have a special guest coming on with Charles, so we're going to be in the studio. That's another reason why I wanted to do this today, so people could see the state of what's going on, even though we're not going to be out on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, we can really tie the mask wearing directly to the information that's being disseminated by the mayor, the governor, and their surrogates, the news. Because they tell people, yes, Courtney is right. De Blasio is the only bomb in New York City. Yeah, and Trump owned the Plaza, but I thought he might have owned the Waldorf as well. I could be wrong. And then there was a whole dust-up with the Plaza where Al-Walid bin Talal, I think, bought it after Trump's bankruptcy, and he's like really super loves insulting Trump. I guess there must be a police precinct down there, usually when the cars are parked diagonally. That's what that means. Is this a moving truck? No, it's UPS. It's probably people ordering stuff from Amazon. It's nicely paved Lexington Avenue. So that's cool. Now, is this one open? The one doesn't look open to our valued guests. Will be closed until further notice. Yeah, this one is closed down on 20th and Broadway as well. So perhaps that's a company from Paris. Good food there. I mean, I don't really drink coffee, but that's a fancy coffee place. Paris Baguette Bakery remains open. See, that's the thing. People may not realize this in New York. There's usually so many people around that you can have two French baguette coffee places right next to each other, and they could both thrive based on, maybe one having a slightly different kind of coffee than the other, and there's enough people to keep both businesses alive. But there's just nobody around now. None of this type of lifestyle is going to be able to go on if there's nobody to patronize these businesses. And then sort of the whole purpose of New York City goes away. This is the Citigroup building, I think, Citicorp building. This is another really unique building in New York. It's on these stilts. And there is a giant, in the middle of that thing there's a giant sphere hanging I guess it's a counterbalance or something, so that when the building sways from the wind, it doesn't topple over. And I think because it's on those stilts, that counterbalance is necessary. There is some YouTube video around about how an engineering student asked a question about the design of this building that ultimately I think resulted in the addition of that counterbalance that is attributed to saving the building. If you go into YouTube and say how an engineering student question saved the building, you might be able to find it. I'm gonna piss this guy off by walking through his birds. Look at it, you got directions for where to stand 6 feet on the sidewalk. I guess they know people are dopes, so they need to be told where to stand. That's awesome. I'm pretty sure all those Dos Toros restaurants are closed. That one looks closed. Mama Ganoush looks closed. Paris John Paul Hair Salon looks closed. Anka Grill closed. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7 businesses on that block are closed. That is just wild. They're just closed weekends now. I guess that makes sense. I mean, we're definitely right now in Midtown, and there's not a lot of residential buildings around here. This is mostly office stuff and hotels, so I guess a lot of businesses like glasses places don't really have a need to be open on the weekend because they're probably mostly doing business with people who are coming in from their offices. Oh, and by the way, that's bad news for these businesses anyway, because most people aren't going to go to their offices anymore.
We still be. People, I don't like being on time. Because when we on time, we either late or early. You never get way before and.
Well, we can get some good advice from random people on the street. Don't ever be on time, according to that guy. Let's see, are we still going here on the live stream? It's kind of frozen. I hope we're still live. Looks like it's going. So it's just business after business, totally closed. Everyone's wearing masks. Exactly.
It looks nice.
And just, I mean, the looks, if people are seeing them or missing them, that I'm getting just from walking down the street in public without one. They want to rebuild New York City. This is Ginger telling us this now. Want to rebuild New York City into a smart city. So I'm waiting for some energy beam weapons or something now. A lot of old buildings. I would rather not have an energy beam hit New York City while I'm in it. That sounds like it could have negative effects on me. I mean, this looks like a fancy hotel, the Fitzpatrick. Is anybody staying there? How long can they maintain an empty hotel? Lily and Lucy Jewelry closed for rent. Somebody asked why I didn't ride the bike up here. I'm not sure if I answered that, because I don't have a lock. And I'm going someplace after this live stream is done, and the bike would almost certainly be stolen. I mean, it's not that great a bike or anything, but it's functional, and if you leave it unlocked, even if you lock it, I think stealing bikes is kind of, people love it, because the cops are definitely not going to do anything about it, and you can sell them. And if they're easy to steal one, and there you go. See, the other thing about these mask mandates that's just so blatantly stupid is that, you know, you're allowed to eat inside a restaurant now. You're taking your mask off to insert food in your hole in your face. And, you know, they're spending all this energy trying to explain to you how aerosolized microparticles just from opening your mouth are going to do it. That information that John Cullen was giving us about orophycal transmission also is just talking about aerosolized particles. Like literally, if you're walking down the street here in New York City and you smell garbage or human waste or whatever, that's disgusting stuff. Touching whatever mechanism inside your nose and brain that allow you to smell stuff. So I'm just saying, it's like you cannot protect yourself against everything. We've got 74-year-old guy who had it, according to doctors, went to the hospital, he's fine, appears to be fine. How old is Chris Christie? He got it. They let him out today or yesterday. He's fine. So, I mean, you know, why aren't they making everybody walk around wearing a helmet? You could trip on some of this uneven pavement and crack your skull and get a brain injury. I mean, I guess they don't care because that's only happening to you, but the idea is somebody who isn't sick is going to get other people sick. I mean, they're talking about science, but they're relying on fairy tales and fiction. Here's Bloomingdale's. I wonder how Bloomingdale's is doing. Nice window. I like the fish. You know, when I first saw that, it looked like CVD, COVID. Valentino. Now it's printed, facial mask required to enter. That Valentino logo looks a bit like a mask. Maybe they'll make Valentino masks. I think, who was it? Lady Gaga, Lana Del Rey? Somebody got in trouble for doing a book signing with some mesh mask that was like not covering anything. I wonder if that was like a political statement. I think it was Lana Del Rey. I don't know too much about her. But is that a statement that the mask is useless, so you might as well wear a useless mask? I don't know.
Yeah. You're a contender.
Don't know. Getting close to my destination, so I'm going to end the stream soon. Let me just check in with the comments and see how people feel about the current state of New York City. 99.7%. Kathy tells us it's the same as climate hoax scientists. I agree. Somebody says they're a scientist. I mean, you know, I sat in a session one time in LA, in Hollywood, where I was hired to be provide equipment for a 3D shoot, and there was a guy who was an executive from the company that hired us, and then their client was in the screening. And their client was asking all kinds of questions, and I was just hired. I was, not really, I was there in support of the group that was producing this for the client, and the guy who was speaking to his client was just absolutely lying about technical stuff that obviously, 3D technical stuff this client knew nothing about, but I knew the guy was lying, misrepresenting what was going on. And the point of telling you this story is that if I'm an expert in something highly technical and you're not, it's extremely easy for me to fool you with things that sound convincing and look complicated, and you have really no way of challenging because you don't know what we're talking about exactly. Boy, it looks like that little cupcake store is out of business or closed. There's nobody in there. Melissa's Baked by Melissa. There was a pizza place over here that I used to like. Right there, Fratella. That is closed. It says, for rent, you can see 212-223, whatever that phone number is to call to rent the place. Oh, that little dog store is closed. Poodles and whatever. I know a lot of people don't like dog stores. They would prefer for people to, rescue dogs. More out of business stuff over here. So Joe wants to nuke New York. I'm not sure I like that option. I don't think that would benefit anybody, but perhaps that will occur. So many businesses continue to close. And of the restaurants that are open, only a few seem to be doing bustling business. It's a cosmetics place closed. Japanese restaurant across the street closed. Burger Haven closed. You'd think people still want burgers. A lot of eyeballs on me for not having a mask. All right, well, with that, I'm going to leave it right there. I hope that people will become sponsors on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Going to be another episode coming soon in the ongoing series that takes you deep inside Robert David Steele's anti-speech strategy. Robert David Steele tried to sue me to get me to stop talking about the fact that his 501c3 charity is not registered with the New York State Attorney General, something that the New York State Attorney General told us in July is problematic. You cannot solicit funds in the state of New York without being registered. The same is true of California, by the way. There are other things that Robert David Steele has done in the course of promoting that 501c3 that appear to me, by the letter of the statute, to be strictly against the rules, and therefore anybody who has donated money to it should consult their attorney and their accountant before seeking any kind of tax deduction. You don't want to get jammed up. You should thoroughly research any charity that you donate money to. And Crowdsource the Truth is not a charity, so when you make a sponsorship payment, you aren't donating, you are making a payment. And if people want to explore the annual subscription option, you can save some money. Annual subscriptions are available directly on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You can choose that when you click to subscribe. If people want an annual subscription to Subscribestar, you can go on to crowdsourcethetruth.com and sponsor the Counter Lawfare Fund. Send me an email on truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org, and I can help you get set up with an annual subscription. I've made a special arrangement with Subscribestar developers, the guys that run Subscribestar.com. I'm kind of like beta. I don't know if anybody else on Subscribestar can offer this, but I'm dealing directly with them on that so people can save some money and help support Crowdsource the Truth, keep the show going. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see everybody soon.